So for many of you, Larry needs no introduction. He is our beloved technology tutor who comes to the Merowith Center every Monday to tutor older adults in how to use their technology. The words I repeatedly hear to describe Larry are smart, kind, and patient. Often it's actually, oh, so patient to modify that patient adjective. I also know Larry's very modest, and so he probably doesn't like me singing his praises, but Larry is the best of the best, and we are so lucky to have him, and he keeps coming back. We are just so privileged to have Larry with us today and every Monday, and for the other sessions that he has so kindly taught on different aspects of technology. Larry was born and raised in St. Louis, but he spent most of his time after grad school in Sarasota, Florida. After retirement, he spent 5 more years in sales and training at a locally owned Apple reseller called Computer Advantage. And that's where he gained all of his wonderful experience and knowledge. And it enabled him to take giant steps forward in his computer skills. He had to continue his Apple certification as a requirement for his employment, so he has always kept up to date on all the latest aspects of the new technology. He returned to St. Louis in 2017, and he volunteers for the Merowith Center, the J, and Oasis, where the focus is on adult education. And he was also a 2022 Jewish Light Unsung Heroes Award recipient for all of his volunteer work. And without further ado, I'm going to turn things over to Larry, and he's going to tell us all about cloud computing.
Awesome. So only 2 comments to add. The whole patience thing, like I'm going to call my wife in a minute. Will you all just tell her how patient I am?
Very happy to.
And number 2, I do welcome any questions. The easier they are, the better, but any questions that you want, that's fine. So I've designed this hopefully to be fun. There's going to be a little bit of like technology, but not a ton. So it should be pretty easy to follow. So let me share my screen and we'll go from there. Okay. Let's see if you'll just raise your hand and just confirm that you can see this. Awesome. Good. So got your head in the cloud. That's going to be the big question at the end. Do you or do you not willingly want to put some of your stuff in the cloud? So we're going to talk about everything that I think that you need to know about cloud computing. So number 1, what's the cloud? This is what we think of. When we think of the cloud, we think of a cloud, like some nebulous, what is it anywhere? But this is kind of our definition. It's space that you're borrowing, or in some cases, renting, that's located somewhere else other than where you are. So you're working on your computer, on your tablet, on your phone in one place, but those gadgets are storing information somewhere else. Could even be in another country that far away. So when you think of the cloud, don't think of this. That's just going to be confusing. Instead, think something like this. So what's the cloud? It's a warehouse, I should say warehouses, filled with computer drives that, well, and this is what you're storing your information on. Who knows where it is and how long it takes to get there is pretty quick. But this is the cloud. Warehouses and warehouses filled with computer storage. So what are some different clouds? Probably some of you have heard of a variety of clouds. Dropbox is common. If you're an Apple person, you've heard of iCloud. But notice around this circle, there's something called Google Drive. That's Google Cloud. There's OneDrive. So if you use a Windows computer, you've probably seen this phrase OneDrive on your Windows computer. So these are just some of the more well-known cloud systems. And they're all owned by somebody, all of them eager to make some money off of these cloud drives. So as I mentioned, iCloud is owned by Apple. So their goal is to let you use their cloud storage. Hopefully, you're going to buy more and more rental space. Excuse me. So when you think of the cloud, let's think of the word online. The moment you get online, the moment your computer or your gadget receives information from somewhere other than specifically your machine, then you're on the cloud. So when you go onto your computer and you open your browser and you search for something on the web, you are online and you're on somebody's cloud somewhere. So every website you visit has their information stored on a computer. And so you're receiving that information. When you go shopping at Soft Surroundings or at Amazon, you're accessing their cloud information so you can buy or browse whatever you want. So what kind of computers can use the cloud? Well, and the answer is real simple. Any computer that can connect to the internet. So nowadays, pretty much any computer or tablet or phone that you have can connect to the cloud, to somebody's cloud drive, because all you have to do is get to the internet and you're there. So let me give you an example. Most of you have probably heard of Chromebook. Chromebook is completely and totally cloud computing. Everything pretty much that can be done on a Chromebook is actually being done in the cloud. So why are Chromebooks inexpensive? The answer is because they don't have very much storage at all. Why? Because a Chromebook assumes you're going to store everything on the cloud. So you open up a Chromebook and you are using Google's system to get everything you need from the cloud. So not just a Chromebook, but for example, again, everybody has probably heard of Office, Microsoft Word. Most people think you have to purchase Word to use it. But anybody who can get onto the cloud can use Word for free. So the entire Office suite, for the most part, there's always exceptions, can be accessed by going to the cloud and going to Microsoft Office. So they're letting you borrow or use their Word and PowerPoint and Excel software by enabling you to go to the cloud and get that access. In many ways, it's really quite generous. So some people who don't want to pay for Microsoft Words just live in the cloud with all their documents. And these clouds are ready for use the moment you purchase a gadget. So you don't really have to do much, but simply on your gadget say, yes, I want to use the cloud. Now we'll get to some of the specifics. What about cost? Well, notice what you get free with all these different services. With iCloud, for example, you get 5 gigabytes free. This entire PowerPoint, there's, I think, 87 slides, doesn't begin to come close to having any significant storage issues. So 5 gigs is obviously a lot of storage. 15 gigs is huge. That's thousands and thousands of photos. Did I see a question? Okay. No? Now, their hope is that you're going to buy more. So for example, my mother-in-law has an iPad and she has filled her iPad with photos of all her 6 children and who knows how many grandchildren. So she literally on her iPad ran out of storage. So we purchased for her storage in Google Drive, Google Photos, and we pay $19.99 a year so that she can get 100 gigabytes. She will never, even with all the videos and photos that she takes of her family, fill 100 gigabytes. And of course, Google is happy because we're paying them for that greater amount of storage. So a certain amount comes free. If you hit that limit, then you need to pay for more. And they're glad to sign you up. So for example, the other day I was helping somebody on my Windows computer, and boom, all of a sudden, this advertisement popped up. And notice, if you can, what the advertisement says. For $2 a month, you can get 100 gigabytes of space. So the idea is, come on, folks, that's nothing. $2 a month. Almost everybody can afford $2 a month. So jump in, never run out of storage, grab 100 gigabytes. But at this point, I don't need 100 gigabytes. So I just click the X and it goes away. Some of you have asked me a number of times, how do I stop these pop-ups from appearing and from getting in the way? There's pretty much, on some of these pop-ups, no way you can stop it. It's simply part of subscribing to their service. So the moment I got a Windows computer and signed up, the moment I, in essence, gave it permission to have these pop-ups every once in a while. And so if I don't need more storage, I simply ignore it. This is what I receive every month from Apple. I buy for 99 cents, I buy 50 gigabytes of storage because I've run out of room. I do enough on my machines. I have enough photos and other documents that I ran out of room. So I sign up for the 99 cents a month club to get 50 more gigabytes of storage. And I can't imagine I'm going to run out. So that's two ways you can purchase more storage if you find you need it. So now the question, how do I access the cloud? Or how do I get my head back in the cloud if I've never joined up? Well, there's two ways generally. The first is through the apps you use. So for some of you, I'm going to tell you, not to scare you, but I'm going to tell you that you're probably using apps that store some of your information in the cloud and you don't realize it. We'll get to more about that in a minute. But some of your apps, simply by a very definition of what they're doing, want to use the cloud. But you don't have to use your apps. You can also go directly right through the web. You can use your web browser. And again, we'll demo that in a moment. So let's talk about the way that apps access or use the cloud for some of you. You might have seen Google Photos or Apple's Photos. If you use the app Google Photos, you are pretty much storing your photos in the cloud. Some of you have seen this icon. It's notorious in the Apple world. It means something is in the cloud and you can bring it down. So Google Photos on this computer is in the cloud. You just touch the cloud and Google Photos will magically appear on your computer or on your gadget. If I open Google Photos, I'm looking at what's going on in the cloud. These apps, for example, I've circled text messaging, notes, reminders, contacts, calendars. On my computer, all of these apps that I've circled are using the web. Let me explain how that works. Let's say I open Contacts, my address book. I make some changes. I add a new person, somebody else has an address change, so I'll change their address. That information on that gadget goes up to the cloud, up to that warehouse. and back down to all my other gadgets. So if I'm on the phone over here and I change somebody's address book information, that change goes to the cloud and goes to my other gadgets. Same way with my calendar. Let's say I'm in the doctor's office, I'm using my phone, and the doctor says, your next appointment is June 1st. I'll open my calendar app and make that doctor's appointment for June 1st. The moment I do that, that information goes up to the cloud, down to all my other gadgets. So all my other gadgets have that same doctor's appointment registered in the calendar app. Wonderfully convenient, saves all kinds of hassle, but that's the way an app uses the cloud. You put something in the app, it sends it up, and it comes back down on all your other gadgets. Now let me give you some other ways that your device uses the cloud with an app. In this case, if you're an Apple user, an app called Files. If you open your Files app, it looks like a little folder, you'll see on the left-hand side, just like in this picture, this is all your locations. So I can store something on my iPad, or if I'm concerned about my iPad getting filled, I can store it on iCloud, Google Drive, or Dropbox. These are all cloud services, cloud drives. And I have my choice. Anytime I want to store something, I can choose which of these storage locations that I want. Now, let me show you how it looks in a more crowded way. So I've decided to store something, you see on the left, where it says Google Drive. I've touched that. The moment I touch Google Drive, it's showing me some folders. So this is my file cabinet. When I pull the drawer of my file cabinet open, I see all these folders and files. So this is, for example, the slideshow that I'm using now. I've stored it in the cloud drive in iCloud in a folder called Keynote. And you see these other files or folders, I can touch them and bring them down from the cloud to my iPad. So a lot of stuff that I'm storing in the cloud. On a Mac, so let's change gears to a Mac. If you have an Apple computer, you can open Finder. And in Finder, notice I've opened to OneDrive. Well, that's Microsoft's cloud drive, and I can store anything that I want in that drive as well. So in Finder, I look on the left-hand side for the cloud drive that I want, click it, and I get to have all this access to all the files I've placed there. If you're a Windows person, you can click File Explorer. And when you click File Explorer, that's giving you access to the file cabinet that shows everything about your local drive, or notice the red arrow, that's this person's local drive. This is the folder into which everything on his computer is stored. But notice right above it, I can click OneDrive, and that gives this Windows user access to everything that they've stored on the cloud in OneDrive. So two locations, OneDrive or this PC, radically different. Whatever you store on this PC stays on your computer and your computer alone. The moment you click in Windows, OneDrive, you're going to be storing whatever you've placed there onto Microsoft's cloud. Now, let's talk about apps again. So if you have an Android, pretty much by definition, you're storing everything in the cloud. The moment you use on your phone or your tablet, the moment you use Drive or Docs, Sheets, or Slides, you're pretty much storing all of those files and all that information on the cloud, because that's just about how Android works. And that's the reason that Android loves Google. It's owned by Google because you're using Google's cloud for everything. But you don't just have to use the apps. You can literally go to the cloud yourself. So for example, you can open your browser on any machine in the world and go to iCloud.com and you're in Apple's cloud. You can go to Google Drive or drive.google.com, any computer in the world, log in with your Google information, your email, password, and see everything you've stored in the cloud. So if you leave your computer at home, you're visiting somebody and they want to see something you've placed in your computer, you can use their computer to get onto the cloud and get all that information you've stored there. Really quite handy. Though again, that's why people are intimidated, because how private is all your stuff? This is what iCloud.com looks like. So on my browser, I have logged in to iCloud.com. Once I've logged in, if you're an Apple person, you know what this looks like. It looks like your iPad or your iPhone. And that's exactly right. It works the same way. So if I don't have my phone, if I don't have my computer, I'm in somebody else's house, I can go to their computer, go to iCloud.com, sign in, and notice what you can get. You can get your mail, your address book information, your calendar, etc. So you can see the convenience that a cloud drive offers. And it's not foreign looking. It looks just like your other gadgets. I mentioned a few seconds ago that you can go to Microsoft, which is office.live.com, and use any of the apps that you want. And they're scaled down versions. They're not the full versions that can do everything. But folks, for most of us, this is pretty much all we need. So again, any computer, anywhere in the world, you can log into this address and gain access to your files that you've created in Word, for example. In this case, I've logged into office.live.com and notice that it's showing my files. So if I want to work on one of my documents, these are PowerPoint. That's what this P stands for. I can open up these documents and work on my PowerPoint that's technically back at home. Very, very nice to get access to your information anywhere. And this is Google. So you see on this top area, I'm in Google Drive. I use Google Drive as a backup. So when I finished the slides for this presentation, I called it the cloud. I uploaded that file from my computer to the cloud in a folder called the J, so that if something happens to my computer, which it did the other day, I still have access to this PowerPoint that I've worked long and hard to create. I don't want to lose it, so it's on my computer and it's up in the cloud. Okay, let's stop there. Let me stop sharing for a moment. That was a lot of information real fast. So tell me what questions you have so far. Am I going way too fast? I see Marilyn.
You're fantastic. There are a few questions in the chat, Larry.
Oh, okay. Marilyn, while I'm looking at the chat, go ahead.
Let's say you buy the storage and you decide you don't want it anymore, you don't have the money or your account, whatever. Will you lose the storage that you already have?
If you decide to, it's on subscription basis. That's the big term nowadays. So
Yeah.
every year it'll auto renew. If you decide you no longer want that storage, though your information is in it, you'll have the opportunity to download it. But yes, eventually it will be deleted. So I have a couple what's called flash drives or external drives, and I'll download the files or the pictures, whatever, to my computer and then put them on a flash drive and save them that way. But it doesn't give me instant and immediate access. But yes, you will eventually lose some of what you've saved up there.
Thank you.
The difference between OneDrive, Google Drive, and iCloud Drive is simply who owns the cloud service. So for example, if you have an Apple gadget, you can instantly and easily sign up for iCloud because it's kind of built in. If you want to use, as I do, OneDrive or Google Drive, then you have to download those apps or services. And if you don't have any of their products, pay for those storage drives. So OneDrive is Microsoft, Google is Google, Cloud is Apple. There's just different organizations from whom you can purchase cloud drives. Ruth, go ahead and take yourself off mute. Yeah. You put yourself back on. There we go. Oh no, just touch it once. You keep touching it twice. Just touch it once. There. Whoop, you missed it. One more try. There. Now go ahead and ask your question.
You talk about flash drive. Is that a Kingston or a thumb drive or?
Yes, let me show you a picture of a flash drive. Can you see the screen?
Yes.
Those are two flash drives rubber banded in a piece of plastic. But yes, they're teeny little drives. You can also get a more expensive hard disk drive. Let me see if I have one around here. But like I said, they're more expensive. This is an external disk drive. So I can plug it into my computer, but it's more expensive, it's heavier and larger. So I use the flash drives a lot.
Larry, I'm such a Luddite, happily a Luddite. I don't know what the hell you're talking about.
Now, say the question again.
It's Kingston. Are you familiar with the Kingston?
Yes, Kingston makes flash drives.
I've got that, yes.
Okay. So you can plug that into your computer and copy over any files that you want.
Okay, I haven't got a computer, but I've got a flash drive with all my correspondence on. Thanks, Larry.
Okay, good. Okay, let's see. Here's a question from Ron. And Ron, your question mirrors my wife's comments to me regularly. It says, I'm out of space. What should I do? And in my more obnoxious moments, I say, do you really need that much space? But at some point, I'm going to either have to pay for more, the $1 a month club, or I choose to simply ignore it. So you can ignore the fact that your cloud drive is filled, but there's consequences, and we're going to get to that. So it all depends on if you want to pay or not. But there's certain things you cannot do any longer if your cloud is full. And if you have a Mac and you've never signed into iCloud, then yes, correct. You're not backing up to the cloud. You're using your external drive, and that's just fine. So remember, the cloud is simply, think of it as an external drive located somewhere else. Gazillions of external drives located somewhere else, but you have your own locally, so you might not need the cloud.
But how do I know that it's still working? I mean, or that everything's safe and it's still gathering things?
Well, first of all, you need to look to see, I assume you're using Time Machine if you're on a Mac.
I'm not even sure if I am, to tell you the truth. Yeah, I guess so.
What I'll probably do is give you my email address and we'll look. But the bottom line is, on your Mac, you can open Finder.
Okay.
And on the left-hand side of Finder, you'll see the name of your external drive. If you click on that, you'll see what files are in there.
Okay.
So the moment you open Finder, it shows you your whole computer and everything that's attached to it. And on that left side, just like you see documents, pictures, photos, you'll see that external drive. You can click it, double click it, and see what's there.
Okay. And how do you start using the cloud? I mean, would I just start signing into a cloud and just send things there? Or?
Literally, when you sign
Is that
into the
easy?
cloud, in that same area in your settings, you'll have the option to turn on everything you want. Contacts, calendar. You can turn on or off everything. So for example, on my cloud, I have everything turned on except for photos. I don't want my photos in the cloud. And there's several reasons for that. None of that has to do with privacy.
Okay.
So how do you tell how much cloud storage is used? You can go to settings on an Apple anyway.
Mhm.
I'm going to show you actually how, but settings, general, about, and you'll see cloud storage or settings, and you can go to iCloud and see how much it's represented in a bar graph. I'll show you in a moment.
Thank
Okay,
you.
let me go back to sharing my screen. I'm going to give you all my email address at the end so you can write me with questions. And if and when you write me, there's no list. I don't sell anything. There's no subscription. I just answer your questions and then pretty much leave you alone. Okay, so what do you need to access the cloud? You need a gadget, the computers, the phone, the tablet that we talked about, that simply has Wi-Fi or cell service. If you don't have Wi-Fi, you might have cellular service. So for example, if you have an Android phone or an iPhone, you have cell service. So if you're somewhere where you cannot get Wi-Fi, you can still get on the web or on the cloud using your cell. So for example, let's say you're in Starbucks. You decide to go into Starbucks and you decide, unwisely might I add, to pay some of your bills. If you do that, you'll need to get on the internet, which I suggest you don't do in a public location. But if you do, what you'll want to do is turn off your Wi-Fi, because that's public, and simply use your cell service, which is private. So you have to be careful with how much data you use, but there are occasions for privacy's sake when you'll want to turn off your Wi-Fi and just use your cell. But the bottom line is, as long as your gadget has Wi-Fi or cell, you can get onto the internet, which gets you to your cloud service. But please be careful where you use your Wi-Fi. We were just in a place called Arthur, Illinois, about a week and a half ago, and we were in a motel, and I don't like using the internet, but I had to. So when I was using my phone, I just used my cellular service and I turned off my Wi-Fi. Okay, now to the question, what's in the cloud? The bottom line is pretty much whatever you put there. So this term upload, which some of you have heard, download and upload. Download is bringing stuff down from the cloud. Maybe it's one of your clouds or it's a website somewhere. Uploading is what you place in the cloud. So I showed you that slide a minute ago where I was dragging my cloud PowerPoint over to Google Drive. I was doing that because I wanted to upload my PowerPoint to Google Drive for safety so that it resides in two places and not just one. It's on my computer and it's in the cloud. So I had to upload it. That's what the term upload means. You're taking something from one of your gadgets and placing it in the cloud. So what are the benefits? And this is a bit of a review, but what are some of the benefits of holding information in the cloud? Number one, and you probably won't do this much, I hardly ever do this, but you can work on a project together. So let's say you've been asked by one of your children and grandchildren to help you with a wedding. You can work on a Word document or a Pages document with people all over the world, and it's called collaboration. So here, I'm using Keynote, that's like PowerPoint, and I'm giving somebody else permission to work on it with me. Kind of fun, hardly needed. The same with Google Drive. If you store something in Google Drive, then you can, while that file is open, you can share it with somebody. So I can, in Google Drive, share it. I can type people's email addresses here, and they receive permission to edit that same document with me. So let's say I'm working on my will, or my living will, or whatever you call all those hospital documents. I can grab my little brother, my younger brother who's a lawyer, and we can collaborate together on those legal documents. It's really quite nice. Or if you use Office, I realize this is a blurry screen, you can click the share icon up here, and in this Word document, I can type the name of the document and share it to OneDrive so that somebody else can access it. So for example, there's somebody who wants to share their document in OneDrive, but they want their son in Florida to be able to open that document and have access. This is how it's done. You can type the document on your computer, store it in the cloud, and give your kids access. So for safety's sake, they have the same information. That's one of the advantages of the cloud. In this case, what somebody places in there is, I haven't seen any of it, but I assume it's all their passwords. So I share a document that lists all of my passwords with my little brother, my younger brother. So I want him to have access. So that's the first reason to store something in the cloud. Second reason is syncing, to use a big word. So it's basically means you've got the same information anywhere you are. The doctor's appointment I referred to. When I go in, like early in the morning to my dentist, I write down the next dentist appointment in my iPhone. By the time I get back home, that dentist appointment is in my computers and on my iPad. It's everywhere. That's syncing. So no matter what gadget I have that same information that I consider important. How does it know where to put the information? Well, it's your user ID. So your user ID is your email address for the most part. So how does Google know where to sync the information? Every gadget which uses that same email address. How does Apple know what gadgets to sync with? Well, whichever device has my Apple email address, that's what it's going to sync to. So my information does not sync to my wife's computers, only to mine, because mine is the only one that has that same email information, which is called that Apple ID. So it goes up to the cloud and back down to any devices that are using my same email address. So syncing, collaboration, and storage. And this is the biggie. This is the big reason people use the cloud. So they have somewhere to store their information. So here's the idea. Your computer comes with a certain amount of both what's called RAM, thinking space, and storage. Your iPhone, your tablet, your Android phone cannot be upgraded. You cannot get more storage space on those devices. Even some of your computers cannot get more storage space. So you've got to think to yourself, once I fill it up, where do I go? Or what happens if I fill it up? That's cloud. It gives you the ability to store information somewhere other than your gadget so you don't fill up your gadget. Does that make sense? So at some point, your device is going to say no vacancy. And where do you put it? Only two places. One is external storage, that flash drive or external drive we talked about, or the cloud. That's what they look like. So this is an example of a flash drive. This is an example of a hard disk drive that generally stores more information. Both allow you to plug into your ports on your computer and sometimes to your tablet. So it's either cloud or something like this, or constantly paying outrageous fees to get more iPhones and more storage space, because you'd have to upgrade in order to get more storage. And who wants to pay for all that? Not me. Okay, so how to check your storage availability. For your Android, you go to Settings, and then on your Android, in Settings, you'll see a little area that says Search. All you have to do is type in the word storage, and you'll see this chart, this graph. So on my Android tablet, you can see what I have here in storage. I have 32 gigabytes available. I've used a little more than half. I cannot upgrade storage on my device, so the only other option is cloud storage if I fill it up. On my iPad, going to General, you can see the local storage I'm using. So I have an iPad with 64 gigs. I've used 51. So I only have 10 more. So some of your options, and see it saying, hey, Larry, wake up. If you enable iCloud storage, then you'll gain more on your phone. But as I said a while ago, I don't want to enable iCloud photos. Okay, so that's where to look on your iPad. Also, on your iPad, we don't want to look at your iPad storage, but on cloud storage. So for 99 cents a month, I get 50 gigabytes. And you see I've used 36. What's the largest culprit? My backups. I store my backups on iCloud Drive. So my phone and my iPad take up 17 gigabytes. But I want that storage backup. My mentality, in my brain, I'm still living in Florida, where there's hurricane season. And in hurricane season, the lightning is terrible. We once, in our front yard, just yards from our front door, had a lightning strike that took out all the gadgets in our house. So that's the reason I want off-site storage, so it won't get hit by lightning. Okay, this is what is taking up the most storage for you. Your videos are the biggest. Think about it. Just a little minute video clip is probably hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of little photos, because that's what a video is. Hundreds of photos built on top of each other. So videos, photos, and backups. All of which are important. So what else? And that brings me to backups. So what are the benefits of a cloud storage? Backing up off-site. In theory, you can't have that off-site storage area broken or damaged. And look at this phone. I took a picture of it. I grabbed that picture of it. I've seen a lot of you come in to talk with me with phones that look like this. You've dropped them and boom, they're cracked. Got to be so careful, because the next step is damage. That's why I want iCloud or cloud backup. I noticed, by the way, I'm not recommending these folks, but I just took this picture, found it interesting. I was going through, I get what is called West Magazine. And this guy was in West Magazine. And notice, so here's a local guy in St. Louis. He has somehow, he himself either has all kinds of computers in his office or he's renting space. But you connect up with good old Jeff, whoever that is, and he can use his own cloud service to back up your drive. So if you don't trust Apple, you don't trust Google, you can call Jeff and you can get a contract with him, and he will remotely be able to offer you the service of cloud backup. So see, it doesn't even have to be national people. This is his niche. He, I guess, sells, fixes, and backs up computers. So even local people can offer this backup service. There's also, and I realize this is too much information, but I just want you to be aware of it. There are entire companies like these two, Carbonite and Acronis, that do nothing but offer backup services. So remember with iCloud or Google Drive, you can use those, not just as backup, but for other reasons. With these two, like Carbonite or Acronis, that's simply a backup service to give you security. And then finally, what are some more benefits? Access anywhere. You can get on a computer anywhere you want and access your information. Really, really quite nice. Now, here's the scary part. Who uses the cloud? I've talked to many of you that tell me I don't want to use the cloud. I don't want my information on the cloud. Well, who's using the cloud? Everybody you do business with. So let me give you an example. You go into the local bank, doesn't matter where. You can go into Bank of America in Florida, Bank of America here in St. Louis, and astounding, you can walk in and they'll show you all of your accounts. How can the bank in Florida, the bank in Missouri, and the bank in California get access to all the information about your accounts? Easy. Your accounts are stored in the cloud. Do you shop from Amazon? All of your information, everything you've purchased is in the cloud. Credit card companies. Why can you call a credit card company and somebody in Texas or Oklahoma or Toronto, why can they access your information? Because it's all in the cloud. So even though you think you've stopped yourself from getting onto the cloud, your information is still there. Not all of it, but a lot of it. So that brings us to this question: is it safe? Well, it's like anything else we use. Is your car safe? When I started learning how to drive at age 16 or 17, I had 2 car accidents. I was driving into our driveway, and I grew up in a house that had a long driveway. I was coming in really slow, 19 miles an hour, and I misjudged, smashed into the side of my house. So is your car safe? Isn't a car safe? It depends on who the driver is. It depends on how you're using your gadget. If, for example, you see on the left, you're using the same password everywhere, you're at risk. It's not a wise thing to do. If you're using strong passwords and not sharing them on the internet, well, then it's safer. So I try to use really, really complicated passwords. Therefore, I cannot remember my passwords. And there's some I have to look up every time. That's good. That's what I want. If I can't remember my own passwords because they're complicated, then somebody else can't either. However, you've heard of breaches. There's big organizations that have had breaches. That means somebody has hacked them and gained information about you. And there's only so much we can do about that. The biggie is making sure you don't email your passwords to anybody and that you have difficult passwords. How can you make your information even safer? Now, let me get technical again for a moment. There's something called two-factor authentication. And this is my advice to you when it comes to finances. Anything that has to do with finances on my end, I lock down with what's called two-factor authentication. That means when I go somewhere, it's not just enough that I log in with my password. but I have to do a second step to get in. I'll show you what that means. So for example, this is what most of us do. I get to a site and I'm supposed to sign in. And I sign in with my username and my password. For most of us, that gets us in. So step one, you put in your username. Step two, you put in your password. And sometimes your gadget will suggest what to use because you've told it to store that information. So you can even use their suggestion. And once you use their suggestion or you type it in, you touch sign in and you're there. But now what happens if you have two-factor authentication? You get that far, you use your username and your password, then this screen pops up and says, okay, how do you want to log in? You've done the first part, okay. Now I want to send you a code. I want to send you a text or an email with a second level of security. Or in this case, notice I could choose not to receive a text. I can answer a security question, but you have to remember those answers. So like one of my security questions is, in what city did my parents meet? Or in what city did my wife and I meet? So sometimes I've chosen that. If I choose to receive a text, once I almost log in, it'll send me this text and I type this one-time number to fully and finally get into the site that I'm trying to get in. So I type in that code and I click verify, and then I'm able to get into the text. If you have an Apple gadget, when that code is texted, you can touch this and it will fill in the code for you. So you touch this text message and then touch continue and you're logged in. So two-factor authentication is that second level. Your password is not good enough. That second level of a text or an email or answering a security question is required. So folks, I can't emphasize enough, anything that has to do with finances or something like that, retirement, use two-factor authentication to make it more difficult for you to get in, and therefore to make it almost impossible for other people to get in. So that's a lot of stuff, fast pace. And I just have to tell you that it's fun being ADD like I am, even though my heart medication slows me down rapidly. I love the surefire, but then the dilemma is you walk away thinking, what have I just learned? So let's do some questions and answers so that you can lock in what you've learned. Jerry, go ahead and take yourself off mute.
Two-factor. I notice I have with my bank account, I think I see this two-factor all the time.
Right.
I can either use the on my iPhone, or I have 3 questions I can answer. But I'm also, what about a service where you store all the passwords?
Right. For example, I use something called, I use Apple's stuff, but I also subscribe to a service called Keeper. And that's something I put all my passwords or other private notes.
What's that name again?
Keeper, Keeper, Keeper Security.
Keeper.
Right. And you can use a limited amount for free. I pay $12 a year. But when I log into Keeper, the holder of my passwords, even there I have to use two-factor authentication. So Keeper is something, that password I have to remember. It's, how many of you have seen Tolkien, Lord of the Rings? Well, that's the ring to rule them all, my Keeper password. So I store it in several places on paper in my house. But if you use an iPhone, your iPhone comes with a place to keep your passwords, or you can even use your notes. You can lock down your notes. Your notes contains a lock on it. So a few people I know actually just put their password in their notes app and then lock that particular note. But Apple also has a place you go to settings and, a couple inches down, you'll see passwords. That's where it stores your passwords automatically if you say, yes, store it for me. So
Thank
there's
you.
built-in services, and like I said, I use Keeper. There's 1Pass, I think it's called, or LastPass, something. There's several out there. And anybody else who knows can chime in as well. Let's see, other questions. Do I work with individuals in a crisis? Yes. That Monday sign up that you see Susan or Daniel for, that is individual sign up. So people can sign up for a half hour or an hour.
And so I will put my information, my phone number in the chat with my extension. And if you want to have an individual session with Larry on a Monday, you bring in your device and you can ask questions that are individualized to you. And there are many people who have been learners here today. They know what a great job Larry does.
I would like to add that this is probably the best video I've seen of any. And I want to thank you, Larry, for an outstanding job, but also I want you to put the code so that we can re-watch that. There's so much that you gave us today that we'll need to see it again.
And Susan's going to do that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Good.
Today has been recorded and it will be loaded to our cloud so that people can download it and watch it again and review all the information Larry has given us today. It's incredible that such a complex thing as cloud computing, that Larry can break everything down so simply for us all. Larry and I were talking today, the majority of time, half the people show up for an online presentation. People sign up and then about roughly half show up. Larry's programs, 3/4 of the people show up because they know that they're going to get a good presentation with an expert.
Awesome, thank you. If you all want to email me, somebody asked a very important question that I'm almost obsessive about. How do you clean the computer caches and cookies? That's a really important question. Let me give you an example. Even if you don't know what those means, I'll explain it. But anytime I'm getting ready to do anything with finances, anything, whether I'm buying something or going to a bank, I clear all my caches and all my history. Then I do my financial work, and then I clear all my caches and all my history just for that guarding whatever amount of privacy that I can. So that's really important. Susan, do I have time to just give a demo of that real quick or no?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I think everyone would hang on for anything that you want to add.
Okay. This is the way to do it on my iPad. If you have another device, I can send you something, but let me share my iPad again. And by the way, I shouldn't say just iPad. This is iPad or iPhone. It works the same. Go into settings. And then scroll all the way down to where you see Safari. This is assuming you use Safari as your browser. So touching Safari on the left, that brings me to the right, scrolling all the way down, and see where it says clear history and website data. Touch that. It'll give you a warning. Are you sure? And the answer is yes, I'm going to do that. And notice how it turns from blue to grayed out. So on your phone or on your Safari, it's literally as easy as that. If you use some type of Google device, Google browser, and Daniel and Susan, maybe you know, but on the top right are 3 dots that generally mean more. You can go to those 3 dots and then to settings and then clear history. Does that sound right?
Yeah, I think that it is right.
Okay. And on your computer, you can do the same thing. On a computer, you go to Google, the dots, and click. On Apple, you click on the top left where it says Safari, click Safari, then come on down to clear history, and you clear all the history. Pretty easy to do, but very, very important. You don't want to leave cookies, remnants of information proving you have been there for all these different sites. So that's what a cache is. It enables a website to leave information from their site onto your computer so that it's faster for them to draw their screen. Now, cookie is information proving that you've been somewhere. So everybody can see and target you in advertising. Susan, how do we reach you to make an appointment?
I forgot, I typed it in the chat, but didn't hit enter. So there's my phone number. Give me a call and we can set you up with a one-on-one session with Larry. And when I said he's the best of the best, I wasn't kidding, right? I mean, he's just phenomenal. And Larry actually is going to be back with us next month on the 14th at 10 a.m. And that topic is going to be computer fitness practices, keeping your computer in tip-top shape. So I know you'll all want to register and sign in for that session as well.
Awesome, thank you. And seriously, I think you see in the chat, I put in my email address. I truly am more than happy to answer your emails the best that I am able. So it's Get Tech Larry. That was a program at NORC. Get Tech Larry at iCloud.com.
And I'll type my email in the chat as well because I have a tough last name.
And the good news is that on Mondays, I work with Daniel and Susan, and they're great at tech too. And they're both just great with people. So it's a very pleasant environment at the Mirrorwood
Larry,
Center.
I don't see your email on there, on the chat.
Okay, let me
Not seeing it.
type it in again.
I don't see it either.
Okay,
Okay.
I'm not
It must have scrolled up.
imagining. Yeah.
Whoops, that's my zip code. How'd that get in? Okay, Get Tech Larry at iCloud.com. And of course, email addresses and passwords never have a space. So Get Tech Larry at iCloud.com.
Well, I am aware of the time and we are 5 minutes after. This was such an excellent program, Larry. Thank you again
Great.
for being here to teach us.
It's
And
fun.
thank you everyone for joining us today. And I
Yeah,
will
thank you, Larry.
be sure to make
You're
sure
welcome.
you all get the link for the recording. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Have a good day.
All right.
Stay cool.
Thank you.